Brandon, welcome to the show.
Frank, thanks for having me, man. I'm looking forward to this.
Well, let's jump right into it. Zoom is known for virtual meetings. In fact, they took over for WebEx, almost erasing that name during the pandemic. And as a result, kind of blew up as an organization. And now you've got this contact center offering that's somewhat new. What does
Mhm.
that investment look like to Zoom? Where the heck are you going with this?
A similar question was asked of Eric a year and a half back. Where does he see Zoom going and why did he enter this space? And I'm being honest with you, the answer surprised me a little bit. And I work here in this space. But he said within 3 to 5 years, he wanted Zoom to be known as a CX leader. And that's a big statement from a company that is known. I mean, not to toot our own horn, but like you said, post pandemic, these are known as Zoom meetings now. I mean, it's a verb. So to say that you want to be known as a CX company, a CX leader, I think it says a lot about his approach. The investment has been there from a people perspective, from a technology perspective. I was talking to a customer yesterday because our release notes are available and we're doing between 20 and 30 feature releases a month. And we've been running at that rate for about 14, 15 months right now. So we are going to be a leader in this space.
Your competitors have 10, 15 years in the space across the board, not everybody, but
Yeah.
for the most part, the leaders that you see out there sit with that type of tenure.
Mhm.
You've been in this space for about 2 to 3 years. Is that investment essentially a function of catching up, or do you feel like you're getting into a state right now where you're actually driving innovation?
I'm glad you added that second part because I don't want to offend any of our competitors. But in some cases, and it clearly has worked for us, when you're talking technology in the cloud, later's better. I'm just being honest with you because we're created in the cloud purely, but we've also had the benefit of seeing what some of the players are doing well, but also seeing what some of the pain points that still existed in customers. I want to answer this because I get this question a lot. How do you compare from a feature functionality set? And I always say this: we have no intention of being on feature parity with any of the players that have been out there for 10, 15 years. That is not our goal. We do a really good job of getting information, feedback from our customers, and getting feedback from experts in the field like yourself to know we don't want to build what already exists. We want to build what customers are actually asking for and what they want. And I will tell you one thing that drives us and has been driving us from the beginning is that we started looking at some of the data out there from Forrester and from Gartner on utilization. So we weren't looking to match features. We were looking to see what features our customers actually using that exist and what features the customers want that didn't exist. So our path is decidedly different.
I think that's pretty mature. I mean, if you look at an Excel spreadsheet, just as an example, there are hundreds of functions and thousands of different types of things that people have done to create really cool data analytics and data management. But on average, most people use three. And so creating all of that feature parity to maybe address 3% of the marketplace makes no sense
Exactly.
whatsoever. I've been a fan of yours. You're kind of a legend in the industry. You moving into Zoom and to become, for lack of a better word, kind of the CX czar of that company actually has a lot of gravity. Like,
Mhm.
what drew you to the organization? What caused you to pivot and walk into an organization that essentially is certainly a leader in one category, but is really an upstart in the category that sits with your expertise?
So very much an upstart, which is actually one of the things that drew me to it. I will tell you the specific catalyst is two things. One was the failed attempt to acquire Five9, and
Mm.
that's public knowledge. When that did not go through, and Zoom announced that they were going to build their own, that intrigued me. Like you, very much like you, I've been an observer and operator in this space for a long time. Someone with the chutzpah of Zoom, right? It's a big brand, big backing to say that we're going to build something in this space intrigued me, and it caused me to have a conversation with a couple of the leaders back when they were doing it. And then, to be honest, because one of the partners that I work with told me I had to kind of put my money where my mouth was because going around speaking for years on the contact center space and what would change, I always get asked like, what's next? What would change? And what do we have to do? I always said that if Zoom, Microsoft, Salesforce, or Oracle, those are my four. I said, if they ever got serious about the contact center industry, they could change the entire landscape.
Mm.
I always viewed those four companies that I mentioned as you don't have to teach anybody who they are because you're a brand. You don't have to worry about their financial back. You don't have to worry about them being bought by another company or being acquired and going out of business right after you start going with them because it's not private stuff. So when Zoom announced that, one of the partners I work with, he said, "So what are you going to do now? Like this is one of the guys you told us could change the whole thing." And I said, "You know what? You're right. So I got to go help them do it. I mean, I said they could do it. I got to go help them do it."
It does speak to the power. Like you talk about those major brands out there that
Mhm.
are absolutely flush with cash.
Yeah,
That's what we're talking about. They have the
yeah,
resources to invest significantly and cover ground quickly, and they have the technological prowess to
exactly.
create a solution. You're part and parcel of that overall team that's creating a CX solution.
Mhm.
What is your design North Star? What is it that's driving you to a point where we're in that magic quadrant, so to speak, with the known people like the Genesis, the Nice CX1, the Ring Central, all these people, the Five Nines, they're all essentially known brands inside the contact center world. And how does Zoom get there? And how does that design philosophy support that?
Yeah, I think the design philosophy kind of goes back to one of the things that drew me here that I was talking about before. Zoom started even before I got here. Zoom started with their product design by looking at what customers said was missing and what they were actually using first. So the roadmap, when I came in the door, I looked at the roadmap. It was highly utilized feature sets. And there's a chart, there's a standard chart, whether you follow Gartner or somebody else. There's a standard chart of what features are utilized the most, what customers are asking for that they don't have. So that was really our initial map, right? Our initial target. And if you consider the top 2 or 3 players in the cloud space, the apex for us is about 77%. And this is I'm going to go before we started major into AI and stuff like that. The standard feature set look for us was if we got to about 75 to 77% of what they had, that seemed to be where we were at the peak of what customers were asking for before things started dropping off, like you said, where you end up investing in a feature that 3% of people were using or 2 customers were using, that kind of thing.
Mhm.
So that's still kind of our guiding thing. We're quickly approaching it. And I know everyone says that, but I will tell you one of the reasons that we have gotten where we are so quickly, and in my opinion, when it comes to incorporating the newer things, the innovative things like AI and stuff, will surpass the competition, is because we're primarily developers at heart. And I think a lot of companies take on the persona of their leader, and Zoom is no different. Because Eric is basically a developer. I mean, yes, he's the CEO, the founder of a major company, but he's a developer. And one of the things that he uses to drive all of us is what can you make that will make the customer happy? And I know that sounds corny, but literally, if you go into our offices, happiness is painted on the wall. It's in the hallways. It's a driving thing, and it's where he started. He started with he felt the product of the company where he was, customers weren't happy with it. They were complaining all the time. He wanted to make something better. That's how he did this. That's why he came up with Zoom meetings. And that's how he has driven every product that he's added to the platform after that. So for us, innovation is not a buzzword. It's not like we want our technology to be cool or we want to sound trendy. It's a must. It literally drives everything we do.
If you think about the omnichannel approach, which I think is table stakes now for the most part
Yes.
in the
Mhm.
contact center world, and it's really the core. I think of it as like the foundation is how many channels can you be on where you can meet your customer where they are.
Right.
If you look at your philosophy to that, is that a single pane of glass approach?
100%. And to be fair, we had an advantage when it came to that because you talk about the other contact center companies. Their version of omnichannel is, well, I'm going to put the ACD and the IVR, the contact center stuff together, and I'll hopefully add email, maybe some chat, web stuff like that. but that's still that's their version of omnichannel. But then the agent and all the other employees in the company are still using 6 other systems to view customer data or to have a meeting or to chat internally. We had an advantage, of course, because we already have a platform that has the most used meeting software already in it. It has chat already in it, as all those things in it. So then when we added phone, we put it in the same application. When we added contact center, workforce management, AI, it's all in the same thing. So now we're talking agents that have 13 different applications, back office, not even agents, people, regular office people who need a telephone, but who also want to look at notes maybe from an agent call, or who also want to have a meeting with someone who's not in that building. So a single pane of glass for us is truly the Zoom application, which I gotta say, because of COVID, even a 5-year-old can use now. So we're not in the user adoption is through the roof, but we did have an advantage in that.
Well, if you've ever seen a 5-year-old on an iPad, I don't know if that's dumbing down the situation because they're
Yes.
actually pretty amazing. We know the world is really run by FUD, right? Fear,
Yeah.
uncertainty, and doubt. That's how you drive people away from something that you don't want them to pay attention to. And so there's
Very
some
true.
misconceptions out there in the industry, potentially around Zoom, that as an organization, you're looking to counter. How do you actively dispel some of these myths about what Zoom is getting into and how you're approaching it?
Yeah, I think some of the obvious things were when we came out, it was like, well, that's Zoom. It's new. It's going to be an SMB product, or it's not really going to have all the features. And you really got to be careful because those guys do meetings. We do one thing, so clearly we must do it better, which is silly. But like you said, it's one of the things that was out there. Another one of the funniest ones for me, because I was actually at a panel and someone raised their hand and was like, well, you guys are new to, I mean, you did meetings and stuff, but voice is a completely different thing. And how do you think you're going to be an expert in voice and voice traffic and security of it and all those things? And I said, listen, I don't want you to feel bad, but I got to ask you a question. I mean, you've been using the Zoom meetings project for over 10 years. Yeah, and everyone used it during the pandemic. And I said, well, were you using like mine, or like were you talking? It's the same voice platform that you've been using in our meetings project for the last 10 plus years. So we're not new to voice. So some of those things, putting those to bed has been kind of funny. But we're here and we're not going anywhere. We're going to get better. We're growing. And even for some of the people that said, well, you guys try to acquire 5.9, that didn't go through. What's going to happen next? The financial, I said, well, even if you look at that, we were the parent, we were the purchaser. So we're not in this. I'm just being honest. We're not in a situation where someone's going to come along and buy Zoom. If there's any acquisitions or anything like that, and which I have no privy information to, by the way, I don't want anybody running out and making any financial decisions. I don't know anything about that stuff.
Yeah, this is not an insider call.
Exactly. No, it's not that. But I will say, given our financial position and our desire to be a leader in this space, we would be doing the acquiring, if anything.
So you talked a little bit about AI. Obviously, that's on the tip of everybody's tongue in terms of just business, period. But inside the contact center, everybody has their AI talk track, but it's a lot of times it's specific generalities in which people are unpacking this for people. But we know that typically there's an AI that can be applied to agent assist, some sort of like real time support for the agent. Or we could use it as a voice bot or a chat bot. So you're integrating it into various touch points, whether it's into the call flow or it's on a website, all these types of things. And we're using AI for analytics.
Mhm.
When Zoom is talking about AI, what is that AI methodology that you're applying? Where do you see that going? How are you applying it today? But what does that look like roadmap for the next 6 months? And then also maybe you could talk a little bit about some of the plug and play technologies like a Balto or something like that that would
Yes.
natively just fit inside right now so that you can turn on really advanced features from the get.
I agree. And I think table stakes, like you said, things that we're doing now, of course, we have the virtual agent, chat bots, AI on the front end that a lot of companies are providing. We do have the agent assist, the access in the knowledge base and learning from information in previous calls to assist the agent on the back end as well. So those are the things that are available right now. I'll tell you a couple things that are available right now that I think are a new age that lead to where we're going is we are noticing that while the front end tools are useful for self service, improving the knowledge and speed and efficiency of the agent seems to be bringing I don't want to say, I don't know if bigger is better or better OI, a return for the whole customer experience. Because getting to the call quickly, getting the call to the right person is one thing, but then making that agent have all the information they need available to them, and maybe even some information they didn't know they needed because the AI figured it out faster than they did. Don't want to make anybody nervous, but it thinks faster, it compiles data faster. Okay, and we're seeing that. And then on the management of the actual data and of the agent, things like when I was coming up as a supervisor, if I listened to one call on an agent per month and gave them a quality score, that was a lot. And in some instances, that was the goal. And we know that's no indication of the level of service that agents providing.
Mhm.
So utilizing our AI in our WM product to listen to all of the calls, score them if you want. We have preset things there, so you can score all the calls. You can listen, of course, for certain words, phrases, compliance things, regulatory things. But a live person isn't doing it. The AI is doing it. And instead of doing it after the fact, saying, hey, you forgot to give that, compliance statement yesterday, the AI can listen, realize the call is coming to a close and you haven't done it, and tell the agent in real time, hey, here's a statement. And
Mhm.
then, of course, what happened on the call is important. We know agents are human beings. We know if you have a list of more than 10 disposition codes, they're using the first three. They're gonna overuse other and miscellaneous. We know that 10 agents can take the same call, and you're gonna get 8 different notes on what happened on that phone call. Right? Those are real things. Having an AI summarize the call removes all of that. It moves all the subjectivity. It's an objective account of what actually happened. It chooses the right resolution based on the information that it has gathered. And it also gets that agent. Now the agent is not typing 15 minutes after a call. They're on to the next call because the system put the notes in and the disposition code in. So we think those things are going to be more impactful. Helping the agent, helping the actual operation, the business of the contact center is where we're going.
I don't know if you remember the movie The Last Samurai, but Ben
Yeah.
Watanabe was the samurai, and he always just loved having a great conversation.
Yeah.
No matter what that was about. It's just, "Oh, that was a great conversation." The contact center is a singular opportunity while you're at the intersection of people to have a great conversation and to resolve whatever issue or help the person do whatever they need to do, which could be make a reservation. It could be on the revenue side of the business as well, which I think people often forget. They think customer service, customer support only, but I say that ultimately when we're talking about agent assist, this should be all engines forward into the sales part of the
Oh,
organization as well,
absolutely.
right?
Yes, absolutely. You want to be upselling. You want to recognize the value of the person you're talking to. I
Yes.
think one of the best things that has happened outside of the contact center is the impact of loyalty programs on our industry, on the retail industry. When you walk into a hotel that you are a member of, or you are one of the statuses on the airlines, I mean, those things that have skyrocketed. So that data, people want to be recognized for who they are. They want the personalization. So we're going beyond just satisfying the customer need now, and that personalization can help you upsell. And I did want to touch on one thing, one part of your last question. We of course do have integrations. We recognize that one of the best ways to make it less painful than a rip and replace for an organization is to have integrations with some of the existing software applications they may have. So when you're talking Balto and Observe AI and Yellow AI and Assembled, and then all the workforce management, Verint, Nice, all those guys, we play very well with them. We even have a marketplace so you can actually go onto our site and see who the players are, see who we've integrated with. We work well with them. That's a part of, in my opinion, helping a customer get to the technology they want faster and reducing the pain by allowing them to do it in a modular way.
Yeah, I think that's important. And there's some interesting byproducts too, as well, from doing a lot of the approaches to employee experience. I like to say there's that term that people use in the wild that says happy wife, happy life. And it's really
Yes,
true that a happy agent will create a happy customer. And
100%.
and you're going to keep that agent that salesperson, that customer service person, because they're having a better experience. They're actually armed now to have a better conversation, and the consistency across the entire team. Ultimately, from a financial perspective, if you think about the wages that you pay out for a group of people that are customer facing, for the
Mhm.
most part, that's a sunk cost. And also at the same time, it's a fixed cost. It's really not a variable cost at all.
Right. Right.
And so if you think about adding some of these features, you have a group of people. Let's say, for example, you have a rep that's being paid at a base level $5,000, $6,000 a month. And then
Mhm.
you're going to add something on top of that. We'll just say that it's $100 or $200 a month, right? An
Mhm.
additional lift. But that human being increases their productivity by 15% or 20%. Hey, that moves the top line, that
Yeah.
lifts the bottom line. Fundamentally, when I talk about the wage being a sunk cost, is if you were to think about it, like, I'm paying out this money already right now. If I was to drop another $150 on the table to
Yeah.
get this extra amount of lift, would you do it? I think the answer would be yes, and all day long.
Yes. Yeah. You know what? I want to turn the tables a little bit because I want to ask you something about that because you're an expert and I like learning in these conversations, man. I'm still kind of surprised. What you just explained to me is one of the does of our industry, right? Employee experience drives customer experience. And yet there's so many companies that still haven't figured that out. They still haven't accepted that. I was talking to a partner yesterday who shared a phrase I'd heard for the first time when we were talking about this. And he said, yeah, there's so many places the county center agents are still the last ones to the buffet table. And it's interesting to me because they have the biggest impact on the business from a customer perspective. I mean, you just explained it perfectly. And yet, I don't know, why do you think it's taken so long for that part to catch on?
I think a lot of it has to do with the command and control structure of a business and the way that each one of those silos is managed. So you've got your marketing, you've got your business development and sales teams, you have your operations construct, then you have people that are fundamentally managing, could be adoption cycles, right? Maybe it's like an implementation, and then advocacy. Hey, if you're having a problem, give us a call, we'll help you out with it. And so most organizations don't have like a centralized customer experience leader. So it may sit,
Mm,
who knows, it may sit with marketing, it may sit somewhere else inside the business. If it sits with operations, it's probably about like maintaining and optimizing costs. Well, if you're with the CMO, it's about how do we get net new business? How do we get customer lifetime value? Because that's not unified all the way across, there isn't this consistent understanding of the customer journey all the way through. And I'll give you a case in point. Here's a good example, because I'm going to ask you next up here a little bit about data. Maybe this is an
mhm.
intro into data. So
Okay.
one of the things we work with clients all the time is around a customer data platform as a way of routing data. And this is the user story that I always give. Customer A calls in, has an absolutely horrendously bad conversation with somebody in the contact center.
Mhm.
10 minutes later, the marketing automation system sends out a happy email to that person, thereby causing them to seem like deaf, dumb, and blind, and
Yes.
not clued into the fact that they had a bad time. You feel even more distanced from that company, that service provider, than ever before. But what if you are able to think holistically around the experience? You're able to take an experience that happened in the contact center. We can track sentiment, we can track completeness, we
Mhm.
can select that as an event. We can pick that up inside of our customer data platform. We can, based upon the decisioning that we have there, change in status in that customer. The status is now unhappy, however you want to
Yeah.
continuously put it. We can send an update to the marketing automation solution. Maybe it's Marketo or something along those lines. And we can pull that human being from a cadence, right? That they're in, the happy cadence, the happy customer line where we're introducing new offers to them. Simultaneously, we can update inside of the CRM, maybe based upon account based management, a human being that can call up that person and say, Betty, we messed up. We are super sorry. We recognize you as a valued customer. This is what we want to do for you, et cetera, et cetera. Because there's no connectivity around that, what you're talking about is occurring on a regular basis, and it's a silent killer. The contact center is a cost center. It's about optimizing the costs. squishing costs, tightening costs, but losing sight of the fact that they could be creating enormous business lift and enormous customer lifetime value.
Yeah, exactly right. Actually, you put a perspective on that, the hierarchy perspective that I was missing a little bit to understand. Because I've always looked at the what I felt were some kind of displaced priorities or opportunities misses. But like you said, if there's no one solely responsible for that level of service, like no executive customer experience officer, something like that,
Mhm.
then everyone's kind of minding their own store and hoping that it happens by osmosis. So, and of course, we know that doesn't work
It doesn't.
in this
It
case.
doesn't. You have a heart for the agent. I love that. Brandon, thanks for being on the show.
I appreciate it, man. Thanks for doing what you do.